Welcome to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. We have my friend Tim Murtaugh with me today. He is the founder of Line Drive Public Affairs, and he was also a senior advisor on the 2024 Trump campaign and was the communications director for Trump in 2020. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good to see you again, Tudor. I am pleased as I can be to be with you again. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So we have so much to get to. We were chatting a little bit about it before we went on the air. And so I want to get into all of it, but you were telling me about this Biden pill penalty. It's something that I didn't even know was a problem out there. I think most Americans probably don't realize this, but I think we're kind of a little bit more aware of the fact that we have issues with our pharmaceuticals from the standpoint of we saw during 2020, suddenly everything's being made in China. We can't get it here. Now there's something new we should be worried about. We probably don't even know about. So explain a little bit about the Biden pill penalty to us.
Yeah, thanks very much for bringing this up. This is something that was snuck into the Inflation Reduction Act, the poorly named Inflation Reduction Act, because as we all know, it didn't do anything to reduce inflation. But it was passed by Joe Biden and the Democrats. Not a single Republican voted for it. And allegedly, he was doing this to try to do something about the cost of medicine, but it actually has the opposite effect. What the Biden pill penalty does is it treats different categories of medicine differently. You have one category of medicine, which are called large molecule medicine. And think of these things as you have to go to the doctor's office or the hospital to get, talking about IVs or injections or infusions. Those are more inconvenient. Of course, you have to go to the hospital or doctor to get them, and they're far more expensive. On the other side, you have a different category of pills, of medicine, which are called small molecules. Think of pills. These are the medicines that people can take at home. They're much more convenient. We know that people are more likely to take the medicine that they need if it's convenient for them, if it's easy to get. You can get pills by mail. You can take them at home. They're much more convenient, and they're also cheaper. Pills, on average, are 71% cheaper than the biologic large molecule forms, and that makes perfect sense to want to have people take those kinds of medicines. But what did the Biden pill penalty do? It drove people away from the cheaper, more convenient medicines. And what that means is it drives up costs of the medicines themselves. It drives up the cost to make them. It drives up the costs for patients, and it drives up the cost for the entire healthcare system. It discriminated against pills by making it by the government can come in and set prices on pills earlier than it can for biologics. So it is driving all of the research dollars away from pills and towards these more expensive, more inconvenient large molecule medicines. And the result is that since this was introduced in 2021, 70% of the research and development dollars for pill medicine has gone away. It's either gone to the large molecule injection drugs, the IV drugs, or it's even left the pharmaceutical industry entirely. It's gone to AI or to the energy sector where people are investing their money. It is, if you were talking about caring about the cost of medicine to people, to consumers, to patients, and to the entire healthcare system, the Biden pill penalty is about the dumbest thing you could ever have possibly conceived, but Biden and the Democrats did it. Republicans can save it, however. President Trump signed an executive order just the other day that addresses the cost of prescription medication, and getting rid of the Biden pill penalty is something that's in there. He directed the Secretary of HHS to work with Congress to do this, and Congress can do it. There's a piece of legislation called the EPIC Act, which would get rid of the Biden pill penalty, but the more likely way that it's going to happen is through budget reconciliation, which is going to be happening in Congress over the course of the next number of weeks. So the Biden pill penalty, it's completely backwards. It drives up the cost of medicine. It drives up the cost of healthcare generally, and it forces people away from pills, which again is 71% cheaper than the alternative and the more inconvenient large molecule injection IV form medicine that people have to go to the hospital.
Well, and I think right now we have a lot of people who are very skeptical of pharmaceutical companies. I think after 2020, we have the MAHA movement. We have RFK who's come out and said he's going to take a look at all this stuff. So I think when you talk to some of these people, they're a little bit concerned about, well, do I even want drug companies doing this research? But I think that what you're pointing out is critical right now, because you have a Health and Human Services Department, the agency that is going to be actually looking at this, and an FDA that is going to be looking at the research in a different way than they had in the past. We just had somebody on the podcast who was saying, the FDA they were exposing some of the stuff that they say Johnson & Johnson has done. And they said that they had proof that the FDA had actually worked with Johnson & Johnson, been paid by Johnson & Johnson, and there was a collaboration there. Now you have an FDA that is not biased, that wants to be involved in this research. If you have pharmaceutical companies stepping out of that right now because there is no competitive advantage or there is no financial advantage and they're putting money into a different type of medication, right now we have potential years of breakthroughs that will not be monitored by this MAHA movement. I think that's a double whammy.
Yeah, and look, I think we're talking about two different categories of drugs, right? The large molecule versus small molecules or pills. And there's pharmaceutical companies, of course, in both of those camps. So if you're looking for logic as to why Joe Biden and the Democrats did this, I mean, I don't know if you're going to find it. You'd have to ask if he could possibly even answer this question. Why, Joe? Why did you do this? He probably doesn't know. But it's kind of like the same logic that they have where they try to force people to drive electric vehicles and then force everyone to use wind and solar panel, which doesn't produce enough electricity to charge the electric vehicle. If you're trying to find logic in what they do and how they pick winners and losers, you're not going to find it. But you're exactly right. I mean, this really does all boil down to cost to the consumer. As I said, the pills are 71% cheaper than these other forms of medicine. And the fact is the Biden pill penalty discourages the development of generic drugs coming into the market. There is no longer any incentive for a company to develop a generic form of a drug to get into the market quickly, to become the first one in there. The Biden pill penalty destroys that incentive. And as we know, take the cholesterol drug Lipitor, which is a great example. Everyone knows about this. Because of generics in the cholesterol drug market, you can get your cholesterol medicine for basically pennies a dose, right? That's because of generics. The Biden pill penalty actually actively discourages the entry of generics into the market. It is completely backwards for a cost-saving approach. If you care about the price of prescription drugs, the Biden pill penalty is exactly the opposite of what you would do, because it discourages the development of pill form medicine. And again, we're talking about mental health drugs, Alzheimer's drugs, cancer drugs. Heck, Joe Biden said, I'm going to be the president who cures cancer. And then he does this and drives research and development away from cancer drugs. It's ridiculous. And the University of Chicago has done a study about this. I'm glad you mentioned breakthroughs not happening. 88 different breakthroughs in medicine, either new medicines that would cure certain ailments or new applications for existing medicines. 88 discoveries or breakthroughs have not occurred because of the Biden pill penalty. And the result of that, again, according to the University of Chicago, not some, fly-by-night outfit, they're a very renowned, world-respected university, 116 million life years have been lost off of the life expectancies of Americans who are living today. 116 million. And so, is that a year off or two off of your life, off of my life, off of my kid's life? How do you calculate the value of that? But the real cost of this is not only in the health, because people are not going to be able to use the pills at home that are convenient. They'll end up in the hospital because they're not taking care of ailments on the front end, and then they'll get more serious down the road. But again, pills are 71% cheaper than the ones that you have to go to the hospital for. And Joe Biden is driving people still. He's no longer president, and he's still having this effect, driving people to the more inconvenient, more expensive drugs that you have to go to the hospital for. The Biden pill penalty, it has got to go. Congress can do it. And it's good that President Trump is on board with this effort. It's great.
Well, so you mentioned that you think Joe Biden probably had no idea that this was going in there. And I suspect that he doesn't really understand. But okay, there's a few things then that we have to talk about. We have to be aware of who we are electing and how well they know the issues, because you saw this when Kamala Harris went out and she was interviewed. She didn't know the issues. That was, people say, oh, podcasts were the reason that Donald Trump got elected. But it wasn't just that he went on podcasts. It was that he was able to actually coherently speak on podcasts and understand all the issues. You need to look at your candidates and understand, do they understand? Do they know the issues? And then there's the other side of this, that is, are some of these malicious, or is this just irresponsible? Because I think so often I see legislators and people in government who want to push something through, but they haven't game planned out all of the different effects. So is it malicious or is it irresponsible legislation that they didn't go, man, you know what? This is really going to screw up the whole industry.
Well, I mean, it's kind of anyone's guess, and I have some theories as to why stuff like this happens, especially with something this monstrosity, the Inflation Reduction Act. First thing, the liberals, the left, you know this, they are the kings of mislabeling things, describing pieces of legislation as exactly what they are not. You know,
I know when you said it was a terrible name, the Inflation Reduction Act, I'm like, actually, great name, because it was very deceitful.
Yes, that's exactly what they do. And, you know, every single Democrat in Congress who voted for this thing, again, I would point out that no Republicans voted for it. And I would hazard a guess that as Joe Biden or the auto pen or whoever it was who signed the legislation after it passed Congress, there's no way he knew everything that was in it. You know, and you tell members of Congress, hey, we've got this thing. It's called the Inflation Reduction Act, right? They're like, oh, yes, who could vote against that if you're a Democrat, especially since Joe Biden was the one pushing it. And Republicans were saying, you know, this is a bad idea. We're all going to vote against this. They misnamed things. I'm not sure that this is all written by staff. There is no chance that members of Congress who voted for it actually read the whole thing. There's no chance. And I'll tell you who does know what's in it. China. China knows what's in the Inflation Reduction Act, because they have taken advantage of the Biden pill penalty that's in there. And China has, since 2021, has by leaps and bounds ramped up its research and investment in pill form medicine. They are now trying to catch up to the United States and are almost there. They are putting every dollar they can in developing new pill form medicine in China, because it's a way for them to keep their people, their workforce, healthy and with longer lifespans than their competitors on the other side of the world, the United States of America. China knows an opening when they see it. And you better believe China reads the legislation that the people on the left pass through here. And this is an example of wrong-headed legislation where it actually, you know, Congress, this is what Congress has the ability to do. They can either encourage certain behaviors or discourage certain behaviors. The Biden pill penalty discourages investment in cheaper, more effective, more convenient medicines, and it encourages money to go to the more expensive, more inconvenient sort of medicines of last resort that you have to take at the hospital. So I don't know if that's by design, but that's the effect.
Too often there's unintended consequences with this legislation. And I see it in Michigan. I mean, you talked about the energy and these mandates that we have, that the electric car mandates and then the energy mandates that these leftists put in. Look at Michigan. It's a great example. We've got these, we have to be what? A totally 100% renewable energy. Ridiculous. Impossible by 2035. And they want electric car mandates. So then what happens? The unintended consequences of that is manufacturers say, this environment is volatile. I don't know that I can actually have the lights on. I don't know that my machines will always be working. If they're going to do this with energy, I've got to leave the state. We've had massive businesses leave the state. This unintended consequence is very severe and it's very radical and happens quickly. I mean, this situation with China, suddenly we're even more reliant on China. That would be a terrible situation. And we are at this standoff right now with them, with the tariffs. And it's an interesting scenario because they're very reliant on us, of course, because we're buying most of their product. I mean, I think it's like $565 billion that we're bringing in every year from China. It's very, very significant. And they're only taking in about 300 billion from us. So we are buying a lot from them. But if we put this in their lap, this is our health. How do you trust that?
No, I mean, you're exactly right. The Biden pill penalty is a parallel for a lot of things. It is just like what happened. You just mentioned it, the electric vehicle mandate that the Democrats did. And if you're forcing people to do something, then of course the other industries that exist that do something different from that, they'll either leave or they'll dry up and die altogether. It's kind of like there's another one here, and this is sort of off the trail, but In Delaware, you had that judge who decided to strike down Elon Musk's compensation package as the CEO of Tesla, right? So she made his compensation package as the CEO, which was entirely based on whether or not the company was successful. If the company had not been successful, he wouldn't have gotten paid anything. But as a result, the company was successful. This judge said, no, you can't have that, and struck that down. And so what does that mean? Delaware, which had previously for decades been a place where a lot of companies go to incorporate, right? Because it has favorable laws there. Delaware is now, obviously, rightly so, regarded as a hostile place to have your business headquartered. And so what's happening? Businesses are fleeing Delaware. And they did this because we hate Elon Musk. Watch what we're going to do. Well, what's the result of that? Now, your state is losing business, losing companies that are moving to somewhere else like Florida, perhaps, or some other place that's more favorable to business. And is that good for Delaware or bad for Delaware?
Stick around for more with Tim Murtaugh. But first, I want to talk to you about my partners at American Alternative. Markets are experiencing extreme volatility. They're having brief rallies and then they're quickly erased by sharp sell-offs. The dollar has continued to weaken on international markets, but gold has surged to all-time new record highs. Wall Street analysts are warning of persistent market stress and advising their biggest clients to seek safety now. When markets swing violently, your retirement savings are extremely vulnerable. It's during these uncertain times that people need stable assets. For thousands of years, that asset has been gold, and that's why I'm proud to endorse American Alternative Assets. They take a different approach to precious metals. They get to know you, they get to know your family, and they get to know your needs. They know precious metals protection is not for everyone, and that's why they only work with people that they know they can help. They provide quarterly check-ins to ensure your strategy stays on track. 30% of their customers return, and they refer family and friends. American Alternative Assets is offering our listeners a free wealth protection guide and up to 5% bonus on their first purchase. So you should call right now. Call 877-522-GOLD or visit tudorsgold.com right away. Don't wait until it's too late. Protect your wealth and secure your future right now. Again, that's 877-522-GOLD, or you can visit tudorsgold.com. Stay tuned. We've got more after this. You see this happening across the country. And that, honestly, I have a little hope because of this, because when I see this happen, I mean, even Target, Bud Light, all of these scenarios where they try to capitulate to the far left, and the average American, and I wouldn't say it's the American right, I would say it's the average American goes, you know what, I'm not going to take my little girl into Target if there's going to be all this sexual stuff at the front of the store. That's just not going to be what I'm going to do. And then they change. But when you are a state like Delaware and you do that, the change is not as easy it is if you are a manufacturer, where people are generally likely to come back if you make a quick change. If you leave, I always say manufacturing is tough. Things like the situation with Delaware tough. Once you lose trust, you're not going to go there. With a manufacturer, shift doesn't happen overnight. If you want to make a product, it can take sometimes a year to get up and running. This is the issue that we have in the state of Michigan with these leftist laws. They drive companies out, and then for us to say, oh, we're going to build 4 new factories, we're talking about a years long process. This is the issue with these leftist policies. But I want to bring up something else, because as we're talking about leftists, let's talk about Jack Dorsey, who's out there right now with this disturbing, I guess, statement that he wants to get rid of IP laws. Talk about a leftist radical policy. You be able to steal everybody's stuff.
Oh, yeah, this is another one that the Chinese must love. Yeah. So, yeah, Jack Dorsey, who everyone would know as the guy who founded Twitter before Elon Musk bought it, he tweeted the other day, or posted on X, a very simple tweet. It said, delete IP laws, which means intellectual property. Delete IP laws. Now, just long story short here, IP laws are what protect trademarks and copyrights and patents, things that people create and invent. And if you delete IP laws, it means that anyone could come in, and specifically let's talk about online, because that's what Jack's talking about here, because now he's concerned with artificial intelligence, AI programs being allowed to
for
just
his
run
personal gain.
Yes, to run around and rip and steal the creation of others. It absolutely removes the incentive for content creators to create their content. I mean, it's the way YouTube built its empire. Really, is on a lot of content that had been stolen from other people. And Chris Pavlovsky, who is the CEO of Rumble, which is a free speech video platform that also does iCloud service, also or cloud service, not iCloud. That's cloud services. Chris Pavlovsky sort of tore into Jack Dorsey online, saying, "What are you talking about? It actually is. It's not American. It's un-American to say that if you create something, you don't own it. That's
Right.
insane. What's the motivation for anyone? It's actually in our Constitution. The Constitution of the United States says that Congress shall have the ability to create intellectual property laws, to protect the property of people who create that property. And for Jack Dorsey to say, oh, let's just delete the whole thing, no, it's antithetical to everything that a free country should stand for. And you better believe that, once again, China is just salivating and saying, yeah, let's just steal everything, because that's what they're going to do anyway.
That's what I was going to say. This is what we already struggle with, an entire country and a massive country that is constantly stealing IP. Imagine, and they do it because there's no rules to that. You know, they can do whatever they want. They want to come and steal. And that's the cautionary tale of people who take their business to China. Be careful. They'll just recreate it and steal it. So I think a lot of manufacturers have realized that. But imagine getting rid of these laws in the United States. Anyone could steal your content. Anyone could steal your products. Anybody, your neighboring business could steal your stuff and start selling it as their own. And, you know, we've seen a lot of this. My girls, they like a lot of these shirts. There's one sweatshirt that they wear that says on the front of it, "A Child of God." And it's a certain brand that has the sweatshirt. The sweatshirt is about $60. It's not inexpensive, but Shein is now selling the Chinese manufacturer is now selling the sweatshirt for $5.99. So all these other kids come in with this Chinese knockoff of the "A Child of God" sweatshirt, and this company has become very upset because this is their brand. Imagine you look around and you see the product that you make. Everybody's wearing it, but it's not what you made. But it is exactly the font. Everything is exactly the same. And you think about this on a bigger level. I mean, you're talking about anything somebody puts out there. And for those content creators, the reason Donald Trump has been pushing off the TikTok ban is because he understands the amount of businesses out there and the amount of financial turmoil that would cause for individuals in the United States. I mean, and people don't get that. They're like, oh, that he just wants to do it because that's how he got elected. No, he's actually listening to people, because some people have built their entire career, their entire livelihood online. And now this threatens to take that, all for what? For Jack Dorsey's selfish purposes. And that's how leftists are all the time. It's like, this doesn't work for me, but this will work for me. And that's why I think you've seen the Democrat Party get away from the working person and become this party of the snobbish rich elite.
Yeah. I mean, look, Jack, when he ran Twitter, he didn't do anything to compensate or pay the people who were creating the content that made his platform successful. He didn't do anything.
Right. Yeah.
Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky is the CEO of Rumble. He's the one who tore into Jack and said, this is about the dumbest idea you can. Rumble pays its creators, and there's revenue sharing there. They do a pretty good job with that. Well, you're talking about, how about recording artists? You know, all these Hollywood, people who, like Katy Perry, now that she's back from her heroic trip to space, a recording artist like her. There would be nothing stopping anyone from just stealing everything that she creates and making money off of her creation. Hollywood films, there's nothing. China already rips off Hollywood films, so then now there would be basically no barriers to be doing that. This very podcast, Tudor,
right?
There would be nothing stopping AI from regurgitating a fake version of the Tudor Dixon show and trying to make money off of that.
Or just taking the actual show and making it their own. I mean, and this should resonate with people. And especially, I'm glad you brought up Katy Perry, because I remember, I'm old enough to remember a few years back when you could just download music for free That was a glorious time, to be honest. But
Not sure that was legal.
but it wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. And the music artists came out and said, you got to change this. It can't be that you can just download our music for free. You have to change it so people have to buy it. And so they immediately put in safeguards and said, no, you can't continue downloading music for free. You've got to have a subscription. You've got to pay per song, whatever it is. But suddenly we were paying for music again. And that makes total sense. And nobody went, oh, this is unfair, because people realize, oh, yeah, this is their work and we should pay for it. And Americans are pretty understanding of that. The fact that you have, but see, this is my problem, is that the radical left has torn down some of those moral barriers with people. So now it's like, I'm owed this. I should be able to do this. You're going to have a problem, though, when you start to rip off the social media influencer stuff. And that, I think, will be interesting, because these people have built small empires or livelihoods off of this. And this guy's like, I should be able to take whatever I want. It's so crazy.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's socialism, really, or communism.
Yes.
Everything is communal property.
Yes.
That there is no such thing as private property. There is no such thing as your own intellectual property, the actual product of your own creativity and your own mind and your own work. None of that would exist in Jack Dorsey's view of the world. And there are people, you have people, because of this podcast, people have jobs because of this podcast. Others, the Joe Rogan and whoever else are content creators, they are also job creators, and they inject large amounts of money into the American economy. And if you do away with that and say, no, everything that you create belongs to all of us, then who's going to be out there creating? No one.
Right. And you make a great point. I don't think that people realize the amount of people that get paid from something like this. I mean, music is a great example too, because you've got all the producers, film. You see the actors and you look at film and you go, oh, they're all rich, but it's all the people around those that you can't just give this stuff away for free, because everybody has to get paid. You're right. They are job creators.
Have you ever, I mean, people, I like to sit through and watch, even though it doesn't really mean anything to me, watch the entire credits as a movie is ending. You know, there's like 1,000 people involved in making every movie.
Right. I know. I always think, okay, when the kids are still watching something and it's bedtime, I look at it. I'm like, okay, it says there's 30 minutes left. So there's probably like 22 because the credits are going to run.
Credits take so long. Imagine, everybody likes to look for Key Grip and Best Boy and Gaffer, right? Those jobs would be gone.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
If AI is just going to rip it off.
And and my friends in the film industry, I see them posting all the time, like, we're very worried about what this is going to mean. I mean, and even the actors now, their voices are being ripped off and they're being recreated to look like they're mad too. You know, this stuff is not good. I just want to end really quick on something else, though, because as we're talking about the direction that leftists have gone, and even Democrats in general now, we see this situation where I think there's been a lot of confusion over the Maryland man who was deported to the prison in El Salvador. And you have, it's a senator, right? The Senator
Chris Van Hollen
Van Hollen, who honestly went there to meet with him. Now, to be clear,
margaritas with him. Had margaritas with the poor fella.
The guy, poor guy in jail, going out and having margaritas. But honestly, so there's questions, because I had even people last night, I'm at a school event, people are like, oh, how could they have deported that man? And people believe that he was an American citizen. Not only was he not an American citizen, but the Tennessee Star just came out with a story saying that he was pulled over by Tennessee Highway Patrol years before this and had 7 people in his car that they suspected were being trafficked. And then when they went to Biden's FBI said, let him go. That was suspicious. Now we're hearing that he was, wrongfully deported. And yet here's a guy who was he's not a U.S. citizen, was potentially trafficking people. His wife had a protection order against him, and she had written out the protection order, why she needed protection, which was a very devastating description of what her life was with this man and how he had treated her. And yet people are like, I mean, even the senators, I called his wife to let her know he's okay. I'd be like,
This is the same wife that filed a protective order against him because of domestic abuse, right? Oh, yes.
Right.
Yeah, well, he sends her his love. Yeah, we know how he expresses his love, because she had to go to the cops and asked for a protective order. Right. And, so you got Democrats, they have chosen this guy as their darling. This nice fella who was living in Maryland. He is not a Maryland man. He's a resident of El Salvador who was illegally living in Maryland. You have Chris Van Hollen and all the Democrats who have embraced this guy. And let's be clear about this. The only reason that they have latched on to this guy as their new hero is because Donald Trump is on the other side.
Right, exactly.
Donald Trump's main superpower is breaking the brains of his political opponents. So they have decided to wrap their arms completely. It's Chris Van Hollen, it's Cory Booker, it's Senator Chris Murphy, it's Hakeem Jeffries in the House. Every Democrat and the entirety of the mainstream media has fallen in love with this guy, and they keep on calling him the Maryland man who was wrongfully deported. No, and they know that's false. They know it's false, and they keep saying it anyway. He was not wrongfully deported. He'd had a deportation order hanging over his head for years. He was illegally present in this country. He entered illegally. He is not an American citizen. He did not have a legal right to be here. The Trump administration sent him back to El Salvador, where he is from, and it's because he was illegally present. He is known to be an MS-13 gangbanger. He was arrested one time, rounded up with a bunch of other MS-13 gangbangers. They had drugs. He had wads of cash. He was wearing MS-13. Other judges and other courts have found him to be a legitimate member of MS-13. He's a domestic abuser. He's a suspected human trafficker, and he was illegally present. And Chris Van Hollen goes flying off to El Salvador to have drinks with the guy as he gets the afternoon off from prison. I've never seen a U.S. senator make that much effort to help an American citizen. This guy flies to El Salvador to help him. This is an amazing string simply because Donald Trump has broken their brains.
I will tell you, I have a girlfriend right now who she adopted a child from Sierra Leone, and there has been and the adoption has all been worked out. She's just supposed to go pick the child up. And this is such a sweet story. The child she's blind. My friend has a son here in the United States with the same issue. She was going to bring her back to the United States. She can't. There's an issue with the U.S. Embassy. She can't get the paperwork through. She has been begging her congresswoman, who is a Democrat, to help her. They just are sending her letters like, yeah, the form's not right, begging for help. Can't get help for a child, an 11-year-old child that needs the medical care that she can get in the United States. And she should be considered an American citizen because her mother adopted her and her mother is here. But this senator goes after a gangbanger, a bad guy, an MS-13 a gang member. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, he lives in the same district that Rachel Morin was killed in. Is that right?
Yes, Maryland. Right. He's the U.S. Senator from Maryland, and that's exactly where Rachel Morin was killed also. And he never did a blessed thing to react to that case, but he flies all the way to El Salvador to have margaritas with and check on the well-being of this illegal alien gangbanger who's been deported back to his home country. It's staggering. This is again another one of these issues in politics. We talk about 80-20 issues, right? Where 80% of the people are on one side and agree, and only 20% see it the other way. Democrats keep picking the 20 every single time, simply because they hate Donald Trump so much that they can't even see logic or reason. To the pictures of Chris Van Hollen, having drinks with this guy, he flew all the way to El Salvador to check on the well-being of a criminal, of an illegal alien criminal.
Stick around for more with Tim Murtaugh, but first I want to talk to you about my newest partners at Ease Total Health. Do you guys remember when President Trump said Obamacare sucks? Well, President Trump also said, I don't want to terminate Obamacare. I want to replace it with much better health care. We all agree with President Trump that Obamacare is horrible. Obamacare has been a total disaster with its overpriced premiums and sky-high deductibles, but today is a new day, and now you can replace your overpriced, lousy Obamacare with Ease for Everyone, the only group plan that any adult in the United States is now eligible to join. Listen as we compare Ease for Everyone to Obamacare. With Ease, you get a monthly cost as low as $262. You get free, unlimited prescriptions. 93% of all drugs covered are available at no extra cost, including insulin, and huge savings on name brands there. Free unlimited virtual primary care, unlimited urgent care for a $30 copay, generous cashback reimbursements for emergency room visits and ambulance transportation, and also doctor visits. You can have affordable healthcare for as low as $262 a month today. Visit easeforeveryone.com/Tudor and join today. That's easeforeveryone.com/Tudor. Now stay tuned. We've got more after this. You know, we have a woman in Michigan who wants to be the next U.S. Senator. Her name is Mallory McMorrow. And she posted about this story on Twitter because that's kind of her claim to fame, is to have a big social media following as a crab. And she came out and she was really mad about this guy. And she says, she decides to take this approach. They've deported this man illegally. They should not have deported him. They're defying the court. And Donald Trump has now said that he is going to start sending American citizens that disagree with him to foreign prisons. Come on.
Look, about the best thing you could possibly say about this case, about this El Salvadoran guy, is that maybe he shouldn't have been sent to El Salvador specifically. Maybe he should have been deported to some other country. The question of whether or not he could be deported is that's not even arguable. He was an illegal alien. He already had a deportation order, a removal order. He can be deported. He should be deported. And the White House has said, listen, if they somehow even manage and succeed to somehow bring him back to this country, we're just going to deport him again. But so the reason why one judge at one time said you can't send him back to El Salvador is because he claimed that he was under threat from some gang in El Salvador. That gang in El Salvador has been wiped out of existence and doesn't exist there anymore. That particular gang has a greater presence in Los Angeles, California, than it does in El Salvador.
To be fair, when you are a member of a gang, you tend to have other gangs that hate you.
For sure. Okay, fine. But he has chosen to be a member of a gang.
Exactly.
So
that's my point.
As his defense, hey, I can't go back there because I'm a gang member. These are the same people who say you can't send him to El Salvador. Why is that? Well, because he's a part of a rival gang. Oh, so he is a gang member and he's not an innocent Maryland. See, they just can't get around. We're back to the logic of the left now.
This is the logic that I use as a parent. Your choices have consequences. So if you do this, this could happen. If you join a gang, you will have other gangs that hate you and want you dead. That's actually just kind of a fact we all know about gangs. And I've never been in a gang, but I still know that.
I love it that they have to use his criminality as his defense.
Right. Yes, exactly. He's a bad guy that is in danger from other bad guys. You know what? Sometimes the world just works itself out.
Yeah. I mean, my gosh, couldn't anybody being just about to be sentenced to prison use the same argument?
But also a wife beater. I mean, why are we defending wife beaters? Like, could women have been crapped on anymore by the Democrats? And that's not a nice thing to say, but it is so true. I mean, we can't have our own sports anymore. We can't win awards. We can't get jobs because men who pretend to be women are better than us. I mean, they have just so destroyed women. And now you have a senator, a sitting U.S. senator, who goes to another country to have margaritas with a wife beater. You cannot make it up.
No. And it just goes to show you how far in the grip of the far extreme left the Democratic Party is. You have absolute supposedly mainstream leaders, United States senators. In the House of Representatives, Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader, the minority leader in the House of Representatives, all of them are on board with the righteous cause, they believe, of this MS-13 gangbanger, wife beater, criminal, illegal alien who has been righteously deported back to El Salvador. They're all on his side. They keep embracing the crazy issues because the radical left requires them to. They didn't learn anything after Election Day 2024. They lost because Donald Trump was on the right side of the issues, talking about the insane, you just said it, men invading women's spaces, trans women who are really biological men in women's sports. Democrats still insist that it's okay for biological grown men to play organized sports against women, against actual biological females. They think that's fine. Immigration. This is like a 90-10 issue, and they're on the side of the 10. They keep choosing the wrong side over and over because the radical left is in charge of that party. Listen, I mean, look, a leftist just firebombed the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania, right? That's Josh Shapiro. He's a Jewish governor of Pennsylvania. He was targeted because of the crazy leftists' view of the conflict in Gaza. He's pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian. He firebombed the guy's mansion in Pennsylvania, the governor's mansion, because of his position in supporting Israel in that conflict. Does anyone recognize the irony here? Josh Shapiro was not picked to be Kamala Harris's running mate because he's Jewish, and the radical left wouldn't stand for that.
Right. I mean,
this party is broken, completely and utterly broken.
And that's when I always say, what is the final nail in the coffin of this new Democrat Party? And does that kill the party? Does a new party form? Do they go back to the JFK party? Like, what happens to the Democrat Party? Because I believe that one day people will look back at the Biden administration and say they had a man cross-dressing as a woman saying that he could tell you about science and health. How bizarre.
That's great. If JFK were alive today, they would call him a right-wing extremist.
I mean, remember when SNL used to have that skit, It's Pat, and you didn't know if Pat was a woman or a man? Like, you couldn't even do that today. They would freak out. But that was funny. That was when SNL was good. Thank you. I love talking to you. I love having you on. I mean, we'll see. Maybe we'll be able to talk about the demise of the Democrat Party sooner than we think.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got the media out there going to prop them up for as long as they possibly can. But I am hopeful that regular Americans who do nothing every day but just go about their regular lives and aren't as, in tune to this as we are every single day. It's sort of a sickness that we have, I'm sorry to say.
I know.
That we do pay attention to this so much. But regular people who have real lives to go and pursue and don't pay attention to the minutia, I hope that it's breaking through. And then I got to believe that some of them look at what the Democrats are doing and just say, what in the world is in these people's heads?
I mean, you even had one of the big comedians. Who was it? Someone, Dylan, that was on Fox last night with Sean Hannity. Someone was, and he was like, if you can't make a joke anymore, where have we come to? Yeah. And this is not like a conservative. This is someone who's just like, can we get back to where we're kind of lighthearted and the country is fun again? I mean, they are such fun crushers.
Yeah, I know. Jerry Seinfeld won't perform on college campuses because he says you can't make jokes.
Right. No, everybody is so sensitive, but those are the people who are the radical leftists, and they're not getting married and they're not having relationships. They have become so angry they can't even communicate with their own friends.
No. Yeah, that's it. I mean, they have every year publications like, I know we're going long here, but publications like Slate and, the Huffington Post and the Daily Beast, they always publish these things around Christmas and Thanksgiving, how to talk to your MAGA uncle and all that stuff. They're like, it's encouraging the division and like how to treat your families like they're all mentally handicapped.
Right. Exactly.
What
no,
is wrong
I know.
with you people.
That is.
Never once. You know what? One business that's going under because the left doesn't buy mirrors anymore because they certainly don't look in them.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. Self-reflection is no longer a thing.
Not a thing.
Well, Tim Murtaugh, I always enjoy having you on. Thank you for coming on.
That was fantastic. Tudor, thank you very much. And congratulations and on the success of this show and much more of it. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you all for listening to the Tudor Dixon Podcast. For this episode and others, you can go to TudorDixonPodcast.com, the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And join us next time. Have a blessed day.